And then, of course, there's, to me, the last big one is carbon markets. And carbon markets get criticized by everybody because people think it's a cop-out and that Air France will buy, carbon credits and keep flying fossil fuel aeroplanes. Yeah, the question is, would you like to be able to fly or not? If you don't plan to fly, you should think of how this is going to change. Money has to go into figuring out how to make planes fly, not on fuel. But meanwhile, you're not going to be able to get by making it zero. So in some way, a carbon market which transfers resources from the richer world to the countries that actually are blessed with sun, wind, and forests, which coincidentally happen to be in the global south. Done the right way, there is a real transfer of resource that will happen without it being a tax on citizens living in the Western world. This idea that somehow we will tax our American living in Mississippi so the money can be invested in Sudan is a lovely idea. It ain't going to fly. And so, because politics will come in the way, the poor president who implements that idea will soon be history. So, in a democracy, this is not going to happen. And we are in a democracy. We kind of like it. So, that's not going to change. Yet, the idea of transferring willing resources by people opting to pay what they think is appropriate for credits that could be gathered. So I was in Indonesia, and we are redoing mangrove plantations with the government of Indonesia. They will save, if they do it correctly over the next 2 years, 67 million tons of carbon emissions over the coming decade with those mangroves. Mangroves, by the way, are 5 times better at absorbing carbon than tropical trees above the soil and 8 to 10 times better under the soil. So if you do that the correct way, along with creating, sort of economic opportunities for the people who live there and so on, you could save this kind of carbon. Let's assume we were to launch a voluntary carbon market where the World Bank were to certify the quality of those credits, so there's no greenwashing. So 14 countries out of 47 have agreed to allow us to do an end-to-end forestry audit of their country. So they cannot deforest here and reforest there and claim credits for this while destroying forests here. Those 14 audits are almost complete. Let's assume we could launch a voluntary carbon market and these 67 million tons over a decade came onto the market. And let's assume all you got was $10 a ton, not 50, not 120 that everybody thinks is the right price, $10 a ton. That's $670 million that will go to Indonesia. The total cost of the financing the World Bank is putting into this project is $420 million. This does not include the economic benefits to people living in that area from the mangrove plantation. If I added that together, the $420 million gets paid back in the first 5 years anyway. Forget about the carbon credits. So I think, now we can criticize the idea, but if somebody's got a better idea, you should produce it. Carbon taxes are not a better idea because they won't fly. They're just talk. And we need to get past the talk because my grandchild's time is running out. That's the issue. And it irritates me that this conversation is not being had with the transparency it needs to be had, which is we don't have time. And so we need to get with the program.